Welcome to Spelling Bee Ninja. Today, we're diving into the world of modal verbs, specifically focusing on could, should, and ought. These words are not just random terms, they play critical roles in our language, helping us express ability, obligation, and possibility. Understanding how to effectively use these modal verbs can enhance your communication skills, making your conversations clearer and more impactful. Let's unravel the intricacies of each word and see how mastering them can aid your understanding of English. Let's begin with could. This modal verb has several uses, and one of its primary functions is to express possibility. For instance, if I say, I could go to the store later, it suggests that going to the store is a possible action. It's not a definite plan, it's more of an option. Additionally, could can be used to refer to past abilities. For example, when I was younger, I could run 5 miles without getting tired. This indicates a capability in the past that no longer applies as strongly today. Now, could also has a conditional aspect, often seen in sentences like, if I had more time, I could learn to play the guitar. Here, could illustrates potential under certain conditions, showing flexibility and opportunity rather than certainty. Understanding these distinctions helps you articulate possibilities more clearly. Next, we have should. This modal verb tends to imply obligation or advice. When you tell someone you should study for your exam, you suggest that studying is recommended, it's not just an option, it's something they ought to do to perform well. Importantly, should can convey regret when reflecting on past actions. For instance, saying, I should have called her implies a missed opportunity or something that shouldn't have been overlooked. Moreover, should highlights expectations, as witnessed when someone says, you should submit your report by Friday. This expresses a strong sense of duty and expectation rather than mere possibility. Thus, mastering should enriches your ability to communicate advice and expectations effectively. Now let's move on to ought. While ought serves similar functions as should, it often carries a slightly more formal or moral connotation. For example, saying, you ought to apologize implies a moral obligation to do so, suggesting that it's not just a good idea, but the right thing to do. In contrast to should, which can be used in various instances, ought tends to navigate more towards ethical directions. The distinction may be subtle, but it signifies different degrees of urgency or importance in moral contexts. To illustrate, if someone says, you ought to respect your elders, they're emphasizing an important ethical duty, while you should respect your elders might simply suggest a good practice. Understanding these nuances helps you articulate moral responsibilities in a more impactful way. When using could, should, and ought, context is crucial. Depending on the situation, choosing the right modal can completely change the message you're trying to convey. For instance, if I say, I could tell you my secret, that's entirely different from I should tell you my secret, or I ought to tell you my secret. The first suggests I have the ability to share it but may choose not to. The second indicates that I believe sharing would be the best course of action, while the third emphasizes a moral responsibility to share it. Each modal provides a different shade of meaning, allowing speakers to precisely convey intentions and feelings. To further illustrate, let's consider everyday examples. Imagine your friend is feeling unwell. You might say, you should see a doctor, advising them based on your concern. If instead you said, you ought to see a doctor, it adds an element of imperative, indicating that seeing a doctor is not just advisable but morally the right choice. On another occasion, saying, you could rest more, indicates that resting is an option that might help, underscoring possibility rather than obligation. This showcases how the nuances between these words profoundly influence how we communicate concern, suggestions, and expectations, allowing for a richer dialogue. In summary, we've explored the modal verbs could, should, and ought, discovering their unique uses in language. We learned that could expresses ability and possibility, while should carries connotations of obligation and advice, and ought imparts moral responsibility. Context is critical in determining which verb to use as it shapes the clarity and intention of your communication. Mastering these distinctions can elevate your English, making your conversations not only more precise but also more engaging. Thank you for joining us on this language journey. Understanding modals like could, should, and ought empowers you to express yourself with confidence. Keep practicing these concepts in your conversations, and watch your communication skills flourish. Remember, language learning is a step-by-step process, and every little effort counts. Until next time, keep exploring the beauty of the English language with Spelling Bee Ninja.